Ethan Carter had a wrench in his hand when the words hit him, and he never felt it leave his fingers. It cracked off the driveway, bounced once, and rolled under his daughter's bike, while he stood there staring at the woman on the other side of the fence, like she'd just told him the house was burning down. "I have a date tonight," Lily said. Then she checked her watch and added the part that stopped his heart. "I might be late, probably after 11. 11 o'clock. 6 words that had no business gutting a man who'd sworn off loving anybody ever again. But here's what neither of them knew. The man picking her up had a folder in his glove box with her name on it and a photograph of Ethan's front door. Before we start, drop the city you're watching from in the comments so I can see how far this story has traveled tonight. And if stories about ordinary people who deserve better find their way to you, subscribe and stay with me. This one takes a turn you won't expect. The alarm went off at 5 the way it had for 11 years, and Ethan Carter turned it off before the second beep. He'd trained himself for that. A man could get used to almost anything if he did it long enough without complaining. He put the coffee on. He put the pan on. He cracked 2 eggs into it, one for him, one for Emma, and stood there in the dark kitchen of a small house on Delaney Street in a town outside Dayton, Ohio, where the streetlights still hummed and the paper still landed on the porch at 5:10. "Dad." He didn't turn around. "You're up early." "I couldn't sleep." "Bad dream." "No." Emma climbed onto the stool with the wobbly leg, the one she refused to let him fix because she liked the wobble. "I was thinking." "That's worse." "Dad." 8 years old and thinking. That's how it starts. Next thing you know, you're 40 and you can't stop. She rolled her eyes at him, which was a thing she'd started doing that spring, and which he privately loved and would never admit. "I was thinking about my bike." "What about it?" "The chain came off again yesterday, at school, in front of Marcus Pell." "Marcus Pell." Ethan flipped the eggs. "Is Marcus Pell a problem?" "He said I ride a garbage bike." "Does he have a bike?" "No." "Then Marcus Pell is a critic," Ethan said. "And critics don't ride. I'll fix the chain tonight." "You said that last week." He set the plate down in front of her. He didn't say anything because she was right, and one of the few rules he'd built his life around was that you don't argue with a kid when she's right. You just do better. "Tonight," he said. "Word of honor." "You always say word of honor." "And have I ever broken it?" Emma chewed, considered. "Once. The talent show. I was under a house in Xenia with a busted evaporator coil and no cell service. Word of honor is word of honor," she said. And Ethan laughed one short laugh out of practice like a truck starting after a cold night and went to get his boots. He'd been an HVAC man for 16 years. Furnaces in the winter, condensers in the summer, and in the shoulder seasons. A whole lot of appliances. People didn't want to replace dryers, dishwashers, water heaters, a 1978 chest freezer belonging to a woman on 4th Street who called it the icebox and refused to let it die. He was good with his hands, and he was quiet, and in that town, those two things together made a man about as popular as he'd ever need to be. At the shop, Ray Delgado was already there, feet on the desk, radio on. "You look like hell." "Morning, Ray." "I'm saying it because I care about you." "You say everything because you care about me. It's exhausting." Ray had been Ethan's boss for 9 years, and his friend for longer than that. 61 years old, 3 grown kids, a wife who sent Ethan home with food every time he lingered too long in the parking lot. "Marcy wants you Sunday," Ray said. "Tell Marcy thanks." "That's not a yes." "Tell Marcy thanks anyway." Ray dropped his feet off the desk. "You know what she says about you? She says you got a Thanksgiving face on a Tuesday, every Tuesday, since the funeral." Ethan picked up the clipboard with the day's calls on it. "That's poetic. She reads a lot. Tell her I'm fine." 11 years, Ethan. 10 years and 8 months, Ethan said without looking up. And that was the end of that conversation, the way it always was, because Ray Delgado was smart enough to know when a door was closed and kind enough not to knock twice. The house Ethan lived in was small and clean. He kept it that way. Vacuumed Sundays. Dishes done before bed always, because his wife Sarah had hated waking up to a sink, and some habits outlive the people who taught them to you. The house had everything a house was supposed to have. Heat that worked. A roof that didn't leak. Food in the pantry. A girl who did her homework. A father who came home every single night. What it didn't have, and he knew it, even if he never said it out loud. Not once. Not to Ray. Not to the wall. Not to God. At 2 in the morning was noise. Not sound. There was sound. The TV. The dryer. The neighbor's dog. Noise. The kind that comes from people who are happy to be in a room together. That the house did not have. And it hadn't had it since the March morning. He'd carried a cardboard box of Sarah's things out of a hospital room and set it in the passenger seat of his truck and driven home, doing exactly the speed limit, because he could not think of a single other rule left in the world that he was still capable of following. Lily Morgan moved into the house next door on a Saturday in September 3 years back, and the first thing Ethan ever heard her say was, "Oh no, 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 don't you dare," as an entire box of dishes went out the bottom of the box and onto her own driveway. He'd gone over. He hadn't wanted to. He went because Sarah would have gone, and some part of him was still running her programming. "I've got a shop vac," he'd said. Lily had looked up at him from a pile of broken stoneware. A big woman with brown curls coming loose from a clip, 30 pounds of ceramic at her feet, and sweat on her forehead, and she'd laughed, really laughed, at herself, at the dishes, at the whole entire situation. "Sir," she'd said, "you are the first thing that's gone right all day." That was the beginning. He didn't know it at the time. Nobody ever does. She was 29 now, and she worked as an accountant for a mid-size contracting outfit in Dayton, Halverson and Reed, 30-some employees, commercial jobs, school districts, a few municipal contracts. She left at 7:30 and got home at 6, and in between those hours, she apparently had time to bake things for an entire street. Muffins for the Novaks when the old man had his hip done. A pie for the Cardenas family when their daughter got into Ohio State. A tray of ham sandwiches at the church hall when anybody died, which in a neighborhood of mostly older folks was more often than anyone liked. And for the Carters, a Tupperware on the porch rail 2 or 3 nights a week for 3 years. She never rang the bell. That was the thing Ethan noticed first and thought about most. She never once rang the bell, so he'd have to say thank you. The first time he'd tried to pay her for it, she'd looked at him like he'd spit on the floor. "Excuse me. For the food. It's not right you buying groceries for us." "Ethan Carter." She'd put her hands on her hips. "Do I look like a restaurant?" "No." "Do I have a sign out front?" "No." "Then put your wallet away before I take it personally." "I don't like owing people." And Lily had said, and he had never forgotten it, not one word of it. "You don't owe me. You've never owed me. That's the whole point of it. If it came with a bill, it wouldn't be a kindness. It'd be a transaction, and I've got enough of those Monday through Friday." She'd handed him the dish and gone home. He'd stood on the porch for a full minute after her door closed. She was heavy. He'd have been lying to say he never noticed. In a town like that, in a neighborhood like that, people noticed, and some of them said things, and he'd heard them. He'd heard a man at the 4th of July block party deke Pharaoh 3 beers in loud, the way men get when nobody's ever told them to stop, say something about Lily as she walked past with a tray. Something that was supposed to be funny. Ethan had set his plate down. I hadn't hit him. He'd just walked over and stood there, 6'2" of HVAC technician, and said very quietly, "Say it again." Deke had not said it again, and Lily, who'd heard every word of it from 10 feet away, which Ethan didn't realize until later, much later, had put the tray down on the folding table and smiled at everybody and kept right on going because that was what she did. That was the trick she'd learned somewhere along the line. Smile bigger. Move faster. Don't let them see it land. He'd thought about that for weeks afterward, and he'd never once said anything to her about it, because he was not a man who knew how to open his mouth about things that mattered. "Dad. Miss Lily's teaching me to make the caramel thing." "The what?" "The thing with the apples. The caramel thing." Emma had her math book open and wasn't looking at it. "She said Saturday if you say okay." "Did she say if I say okay, or did you decide that part?" "She said it. She said, ask your dad, And if he says no, tell him I'll take it up with him personally. Ethan snorted. That sounds like her. So can I? Yeah. Really? Emma. Yes. Go make the caramel thing. Emma got quiet in a way that made him look up from the sink. She had a look on her face. 8 years old, and she already had 4 or 5 distinct looks, and this was the worst one, the one where she was building up to something. What? He said. Nothing. Emma. I said nothing. You've got the face. I don't have a face. You've got your mother's face when she was about to ask me for something. Emma closed the math book. Do you like Miss Lily? Ethan turned the water off. She's a good neighbor. That's not what I asked. That's my answer. Dad. Homework. Fine. She opened the book, and then she said to the page, Marcus Pell's mom said it's weird that a lady like that isn't married. Ethan put the dish down very carefully. A lady like what? That's what she said. She said it to Mrs. Fitch, at the pickup line. And what did you say? I said Miss Lily makes better pie than anybody in Ohio, and she can do long division in her head. Ethan looked at his daughter for a long moment. Come here. She came. He crouched down and put his hands on her shoulders, and he said, Don't ever be sorry for saying that. Not to Marcus Pell's mom, not to anybody. You hear me? Okay. Good girl. Dad. What? You didn't answer the question. It was Thursday the 9th of May, and Ethan got home at 10 after 6 with a bike chain in his hand that he'd bought at the hardware store on 6th because he'd given his word of honor. He set up on the driveway with the bike upside down on the grass, the way his own father had taught him, and he was about 11 minutes into it. Hans' black forearm streaked one of the pedals off when he heard the screen door next door. Ethan. I didn't turn around right away because his hands were in the chain guard and because there was no reason on earth to hurry. Yeah. Have you got a second? Got about 400 of them and a busted derailleur. He looked over the top of this bike, and that was where the day stopped being an ordinary day, although he wouldn't be able to name the exact moment until much later when he lay in bed staring at his ceiling, doing the arithmetic on his own life. Lily was standing at the end of her walk in a dress. Not a work dress. Not the black slacks and the cardigan she wore to Halverson and Reed. A dress blue with small flowers on it, and her hair was down instead of clipped up, and she'd done something to it, and she was holding her purse with both hands in front of her like a kid on a school stage. You're dressed up, Ethan said. I am. Wedding. No. Funeral. Ethan. Sorry. Those are the two I go to. She laughed, but it came out thin, and she looked down at her shoes, and then back up at him, and she said it. I have a date tonight. There was a sound in Ethan's ears, like a furnace kicking on in an empty house. A date, he said. Yes. Tonight. That's generally how dates work, yes. Right. He looked down at the bike chain. He looked at it for probably a second and a half, which is a very long time in a conversation. That's good. That's a good thing. You think? Sure. Because you don't sound like you think. I said it's good. You said it like a man reading a weather report. He wiped his hands on the rag. Who is he? His name's Brandon. Brandon Kell. Marisol from work. Set it up. You remember Marisol? Marisol, she came to the block party with the little boy. Lily was talking faster than usual. He's in commercial real estate, development, something like that. He seemed nice on the phone. On the phone. We've talked twice. Where's he taking you? That Italian place out by the river, the one with the boats. Rossini's. Rossini's. Ethan nodded slowly. That's not cheap. I noticed that too. She smiled, and there was something underneath the smile that he'd never seen on her before, and it took him a second to place it, and when he did, it hurt in a way he wasn't prepared for. She was nervous, not excited nervous, braced, like a person walking toward a door that might open or might not. Lily? Why are you telling me? The question came out before he thought about it, and it landed harder than he meant it to. Lily's chin came up. What do you mean? I mean, He stopped. Started again. You don't have to tell me your business. That's what I mean. You don't owe me a report. I know I don't. So why'd you come out here? And Lily Morgan stood on that walk for a second in a blue dress, and then she said very simply, because if I didn't tell somebody, I was going to talk myself out of it. Ethan didn't have anything for that. 3 years I've lived on this street, she said. You know how many times I've been asked out in 3 years? Lily, twice. And one of them was a guy at a car dealership who was trying to move a Corolla. She laughed at herself, that laugh she had, the one that got there first, so nobody else could. So when Marisol said a man saw my picture and asked about me, I said yes before I could think about it. And I've been sitting in my kitchen for 40 minutes with my shoes on, and I needed to say it out loud to somebody so it'd be real. So I came out here, and I said it to the guy fixing a bicycle. I'm glad you did. Are you? He looked at her. Yeah. Something in her shoulders came down about half an inch. Okay, she said. Okay, good. Then she looked at her watch. He's picking me up at 7:30, and I might be late getting back, just so you know if you see a car. Ethan's hands stopped, not slowed. Stopped mid-air, the rag in one and the chain in the other, and stayed exactly where they were. Late, he said. Yeah. How late? I don't know. After 11 probably. Maybe later if it goes well. If it goes well. There was a moment then, a real one, maybe 2 seconds long, where Ethan Carter, 38 years old, widower father, a man who had not felt anything but tired. Since the spring of a year, he tried not to think about, stood in his own driveway with grease on his hands, and understood that something was very badly wrong inside his chest. It wasn't that she was going out. It was the picture that showed up uninvited in his head. Lily Morgan across a table from some man in a good jacket, laughing. That laugh, the real one, the one that came all the way up from the bottom, and the man across the table getting to hear it. Somebody else was going to make her laugh tonight. Ethan. He came back. Yeah. You okay? You've got a look. I'm fine. You sure you went kind of? I'm fine, Lily. It came out flatter than he meant. She heard it. He watched her hear it, watched the smile go careful on her, and he would have given a week's pay to take the tone back. All right, she said. I didn't mean... No, it's fine. She adjusted her purse. It's fine. I should go in. I have to... I don't even know. Sit down for 20 minutes. Lily. She stopped. He should have said something. Later he'd lie awake building the sentence out of parts, taking it apart, building it again. He should have said, you look nice. He should have said, don't be nervous. He should have said, whoever he is, he's lucky, and if he doesn't know that in the first 10 minutes, then he's a fool, and I'll drive you home myself. What he said was, text me when you get in. Lily blinked. So I know you got home, he added. That's all. It's a neighbor thing. Something moved across her face. He couldn't read it. He'd been able to read her for 3 years, every mood, the good days, and the days she came home from work and sat in her car in the driveway for a minute before she came in. But he couldn't read that one. Okay, she said. A neighbor thing. Right. I'll text you. Okay. She went up the walk. At the door, she turned around. Ethan. Yeah. Do I look all right? And this was the part he would think about for the rest of his life. Because she asked it lightly the way she said everything, but she was holding on to the doorframe while she did it. You look like somebody who's about to have the good night, he said. Lily smiled, a real one, small, and went inside. Ethan stood in the driveway holding a rag. Then he bent down, picked the wrench up off the concrete, and discovered his hands weren't steady. I went in. He made dinner. He burned the first grilled cheese and made another one, and didn't say anything about it. At 7:28, headlights swung across the front window. Emma got there first, up on the couch, elbows on the back of it. Dad, there's a car. Get down off the furniture. It's a nice car. Emma. It's black. It's really clean. Dad, come look. He didn't move from the sink for a good 10 seconds. Then he moved. It was a black sedan, newer, waxed, the kind of car a man buys when he wants a car to say something. It idled at the curb. The driver's door opened, and a man got out. 40. Maybe dark jacket, no tie. A haircut that cost money. And Ethan watched him walk around the front of the car and stop. And look at Ethan's house. Not a glance. Not the way you take in a street. He stopped on the sidewalk, and he turned his head, and he looked at the Carter house, at the porch, at the number on the post, at the truck in the drive for maybe 3 full seconds. Then he went up Lily's walk and knocked. "Dad, who is he?" "Nobody." "He looks fancy." "Get your shoes off the couch." Lily came out. Ethan saw her hand go up to her hair. He saw the man say something, and he saw Lily laugh, and even through the glass and 40 feet of front yard, Ethan could tell it was the polite laugh, not the real one, and he was ashamed of the small, ugly relief that went through him. The man opened the car door for her. Ethan watched the taillights go down Delaney and turn left at the stop sign. "Dad?" "You're doing the thing." "What thing?" "Where you hold on to the counter." He looked down. He let go of the counter. Emma went to bed at 9. He read her 2 chapters. At the end of the second one, she put her hand on his wrist and said, "Dad, are you sad?" "No." "You seem sad." "I'm tired, baby. It's a different thing." "Okay." She rolled over, then into the pillow. In that flat, devastating way, children say the truest thing in the house, right before they fall asleep. "You like her. You just don't want to." Ethan sat there in the dark for a long moment, with his hand on his daughter's back. "Go to sleep," he said. I didn't go to bed. He sat in the kitchen with the light over the stove on and a cup of coffee. He had no business drinking at that hour, and he did what he always did when something was wrong. He went looking for a problem he could actually fix. Brandon Kell. Commercial real estate. Development. Marisol from work set it up. A man saw my picture and asked about me. He turned it over. He kept coming back to the sidewalk. The 3 seconds. A man on his way to pick up a woman for dinner does not stop and study the house next door, and if he does, it's a glance, and it lasts as long as a glance lasts. That wasn't a glance. That was a man checking something against a list in his head. At 10:04 his phone lit up. "Lily. Sorry, I might be later than I thought." Ethan looked at it. He typed, "Everything okay?" 3 dots. They came and went. They came again. "Lily. Yeah. He's just very interested in my job." Ethan set the phone down on the table. "Read it again. Very interested in my job." A woman puts on her best dress and sits down at a restaurant with a man she's never met, and 2.5 hours in the thing she has to report is that he's very interested in her job. Lily Morgan was an accountant at Halverson and Reed. She reconciled accounts. She handled vendor payments. She had signature authority on the operating account, a thing she'd mentioned to Ethan exactly once a year ago in the middle of a completely different conversation about how her boss couldn't work a copier. She'd said it the way you say a boring fact about yourself. Ethan stood up. He put his cup in the sink. He looked at the clock on the stove, 10:11, and then out the window at the empty spot at the curb where a very clean black car had been. Then he got his keys off the hook. 10:11. Ethan had the keys in his hand, and he was 3 steps from the door before the thing he'd forgotten caught up with him. Emma. He stood in the hallway with his jacket half on and looked at the closed door of his daughter's room and felt like the stupidest man in Ohio. He couldn't leave. 8 years old and asleep. You don't leave. That was rule 1, the only rule that had never once bent in 11 years, and here he was with his keys out because a woman he wasn't allowed to want had sent him a text message about her job. He put the keys back on the hook. He stood there another 10 seconds. I took them off the hook again. Then he pulled out his phone and called Ray Delgado at 10:14 on a Thursday night, which he had never done in 9 years of working for the man. Ray picked up on the 4th ring, and his voice had that thickness of a man who'd fallen asleep in a chair with the TV on. "Somebody dead?" "No." "Then it's a furnace and it can wait till morning." "Ray?" Something in the way he said it woke the older man all the way up. Ethan heard a recliner come down. "What is it?" "I need Marcy." "For what?" For Emma. I need somebody at my house for an hour, maybe two. I can't say why exactly. I just need it. There was a pause on the line about 4 seconds long. You in trouble? No. Is the kid in trouble? No. Then what in the world would get Ethan Carter to call me at 10 at night? Ethan opened his mouth and closed it, and then he said the truest thing he'd said all day, which was, I think the woman next door is sitting across from a man who's using her. Ray didn't laugh. That was the thing about Ray Delgado. 61 years old, and he'd heard enough in his life to know the difference between a man being dramatic and a man being scared. Lily, he said. Yeah. Marcy will be there in 15 minutes. Ray, I'll owe you. You'll owe me nothing. 15 minutes. Don't do anything stupid before she gets there. The line went dead, and Ethan stood in his kitchen and realized his heart was going like he'd carried a compressor up a flight of stairs. 10:17. He picked up his phone and typed, "You sure everything's okay?" and looked at it for a long moment and deleted it, because a man who sends two of those in 15 minutes is not a neighbor anymore. He's something else, and Ethan wasn't ready to be something else out loud. He typed instead, "Rossini's has valet. Don't let anybody park your car for you if you didn't watch them do it." He sent it. It was, he understood immediately, the single dumbest text message ever composed by a grown man. 3 dots appeared. Lily, Ethan Carter. Are you giving me valet advice at 10 at night? Lily, I don't even have my car. He drove. Lily. That's kind of the whole point of a date. He sat down at the table with the phone in both hands like it was something he'd caught. Ethan Wright. Lily. Are you okay, Ethan? I'm fine. Lily. You said that this afternoon too, and it was a lie then. He stared at it. Then the dots came up again and stayed a long time longer than a short message needs, and what finally came through was this. Lily. He asked me who lives in the house next to mine. Ethan went completely still. Ethan, when? Lily. 20 minutes ago. It was weird. I made a joke about it and he moved on. Lily. Why is that a weird thing to ask? It's not weird, right, Lily? Ethan? He was already standing up. 10:22. Meanwhile, 11 miles away in a restaurant with white tablecloths and windows that looked out at black water. Lily Morgan set her phone face down beside her bread plate and smiled across the table at a man in a very good jacket and told herself for the 4th time that night that she was being ridiculous. Everything all right? Brandon Kell asked. Neighbor, she said. His daughter's got a science project and he can't work the glue gun. That's very small town. It's very Delaney Street. Delaney. He said it lightly, turning his wine glass by the stem. That's off 5th, off 6th. 6th, right. He smiled. I looked at a parcel over there 2 years ago. Little cul-de-sac behind the church. Shh. There's no cul-de-sac behind the church. There was a pause of about half a second. Half a second is nothing. Lily wouldn't have caught it a year ago, wouldn't have caught it that morning. But she'd been sitting at that table for 2 hours and 40 minutes, and somewhere in the second hour, her body had started keeping a list. Her brain hadn't agreed to yet. Different church then, Brandon said easily, and reached for the bread. Tell me more about Halverson. You said 30 employees. 34. And they're doing school district work. Some. Prevailing wage jobs, those are a nightmare on the back end. All that certified payroll. Lily laughed, honestly surprised. How do you know about certified payroll? I've built things, he said, and smiled at her. And it was a good smile. That was the thing she'd keep coming back to later. It was such a good smile. So who signs off on those? At a shop that size, is that you, or does it go to an owner? And there it was. Lily picked up her water glass. She took a sip she didn't want. She set it down. You know, she said, we've been here almost 3 hours, and I don't think you've asked me a single question about me. Brandon's expression didn't change. It really didn't. He was very good. I've asked you plenty. You've asked me about my job. Your job is you. People are what they do. That's a nice line. It's not a line. Brandon. She was smiling. She was always smiling. That was the tool she'd been handed at 14 and she'd never put it down. "What's my sister's name?" He blinked once. "You mentioned a sister." "I mentioned her twice, in the first 20 minutes. Her name is Dana and she lives in Toledo and she has twins." "Lily, I'm sorry, I'm not good with." "What's my dog's name?" "You have a dog." "No," Lily said. "I don't have a dog." And for 1 second, one clean second, something moved behind Brandon Kell's face, and it was not embarrassment, and it was not apology. And Lily Morgan felt the bottom drop out of her stomach the way it does on a road you didn't know had a dip in it. Then he laughed. "Okay," he said, holding up his hands. "Okay, guilty. I talk about work because I'm terrible at this. I haven't been on a date in 3 years, Lily. 3 years. My ex took the house, the dog, and apparently my entire personality." He leaned back. "You want to know something about me? Ask. Anything. I'll answer it." And that was the exact moment Lily understood the trap she was in, because he'd said it warmly, and he'd said it well, and if she pushed now, she was the crazy one. She was the woman who'd been asked out for the first time in 3 years, and had turned it into an interrogation. She was the woman other women talked about in the pickup line. A lady like that. She heard it in her head, in Mrs. Fitch's voice. "Where'd you grow up?" she said. "Cincinnati." "See, that's a start." "That's a start," he agreed, and refilled her glass, and asked her what she'd wanted to be when she was 10, and she told him a marine biologist, and he laughed in the right place, and for 11 whole minutes, it was a date. 10:31. Marcy Delgado came through Ethan's front door without knocking, which she had earned the right to do sometime around the third casserole, and she was wearing a coat over what were unmistakably pajamas. "Where is she?" "Asleep. She sleeps hard. She won't wake up. And if she does, she'll ask you for a second dinner. Don't give it to her." "I'm absolutely giving it to her." Marcy put her purse on the counter and looked at him, and she looked at him a long time. 60 years old, 5'1", and she'd buried her own mother and raised 3 boys, and she could read a man across a kitchen like a bus schedule. "Ray says you're going after Lily." "I'm not going after anybody. I'm going to go sit in a parking lot." "Uh-huh. There's something wrong with the guy, Marcy." "I believe you." "You don't sound like you believe me." "I believe you about the guy." She sat down at his table and folded her hands. "Ethan, look at me. When you get there, and everything's fine, and she's sitting there having a nice time with a man in a nice coat, what are you going to do?" Ethan stopped with his hand on the door. "I'm going to leave," he said. "You promise me that?" "Yeah. Because you can wreck this. Whatever this is that you've got over there, this 3 years of pie on the porch and neither one of you saying anything. You can wreck it tonight in about 9 seconds if you walk in there like a husband." "I'm not." "You are not her husband, Ethan Carter. You're not her boyfriend. You have never once asked that woman to dinner in 3 years. It landed. She meant it to. "I know." "Do you?" "I know, Marcy." "Then go," she said, and picked up the TV remote and added without looking at him, "and drive like a person who has a daughter." 10:39. He drove. He took 6th to the highway, and he did not speed, not much, and he spent the entire 11 miles arguing with himself in a way he hadn't done since he was 17 years old. She's a grown woman. She asked a question about the house. He asked. Not her. So a man asked about a house. People ask about houses. He stopped on the sidewalk and looked at it for 3 seconds. You're going to blow up the best thing on that street because a man looked at your porch. And underneath all of it, running the whole way, like a wire in a wall, was the thing he would not look at directly, the thing that had been in him since a driveway at 6 in the evening. She put on a dress and asked me if she looked all right, and I said she looked like somebody who was about to have a good night. I had one sentence. One. And I gave her that. 10:52. In the restaurant, the plates were gone, and the check had come, and Brandon Kell put a black card down without looking at the total, and Lily excused herself and walked to the back hallway by the restrooms and stood under a light and called Marisol Vega. It rang 4 times. Lily, it's almost 11. I know, I'm sorry, I'm on the date. How is it? Marisol's voice went up. Is it good? Tell me it's good. Mari, how do you know Brandon? What? How do you know him, specifically? Where do you know him from? There was a pause, and in that pause, Lily heard the exact sound of a house settling. He's a friend of Craig's, Marisol said slowly. Craig knows him from a thing. A golf thing, I think. Lily, why? Have you met him? Have I? Marisol, have you personally met this man? I've seen a picture, Marisol said, and her voice had gone small. Craig said he was a good guy, and he'd seen you at the Christmas party and asked about you, and I thought, oh my God, finally somebody with sense, and I... He wasn't at the Christmas party. He said he was. Marisol, that party was 30 people and everybody's spouse. I would remember. The silence on the line was about 2 seconds long, and it had a whole world in it. Lily, Marisol said, get in a cab. I don't have my... I will pay for it. Get in a cab, right now. Lily hung up and stood in a hallway that smelled like garlic and floor wax, with her phone in her hand and her heart going hard, and she thought very clearly, the way you do when you've stopped panicking and gone somewhere colder. He wanted to know who signs the checks. 10:59. Ethan pulled into the Rossini's lot at 11 o'clock exactly and found a spot at the far end facing the entrance and shut the engine off, and then he sat there and did nothing, which was the hardest work he'd done in a year. He could see the windows. He could see people at tables. He could not see Lily. At 11:04, his phone buzzed in the cup holder, and he grabbed it like a man grabbing a rope. Lily. Are you awake, Ethan? Yeah. Lily. Would you think I was crazy if I said I want to come home? Ethan's thumbs moved before anything else did. Ethan. No. Ethan. Where are you? Lily. In the hallway by the bathrooms, like an insane person. Lily. He's fine. He's been nothing but polite. I think I'm being ridiculous. Ethan. You're not. Lily. You don't even know what happened. Ethan. Don't need to. He watched the 3 dots come and go for a long time. When the message came, it was 6 words. Lily. Marisol has never met him either. Ethan was out of the truck before he had a plan. 11:07. He got to the entrance and stopped because Marcy Delgado's voice was in his head saying, you can wreck this in 9 seconds, and because through the glass of the front door, he could see her. Lily was walking back to the table, and she was smiling. Doing the thing. Shoulders back, chin up, that big warm public smile she put on like a coat, and Ethan Carter stood outside a restaurant in a work jacket with grease still under his fingernails, and understood something that made him want to put his fist through the door. She was managing him. She was scared, and she was managing him, because that was what she'd been taught to do her entire life. Don't make it a scene. Don't be difficult. Smile bigger, move faster, get through it, and cry in the car after. Except tonight, she didn't have a car. That was the thought that moved his feet. 11:09. Inside, Brandon was already standing when Lily got back, and he had her coat over his arm, and he held it up for her. You okay? You were gone a while. Line? There was no line. Lily's hand stopped for half a second in the sleeve. Excuse me? I'm teasing. He smiled. You look pale. Was it the wine? I've had 1 glass. Then let's get you home. He put his hand on the small of her back lightly and steered her toward the door, and Lily let him because she couldn't think of a single natural way to not let him. And that was the thing about it, that was the whole trap of it. Nothing he had done all night was anything you could point at. Actually, she said, I think I'm going to call a car. Don't be silly. I want to. Lily, I drove you out here. I know, and it was very nice of you, and I'd still like to. They were at the door. He reached past her and pushed it open and held it courteous, patient, and said in a completely reasonable voice, Did I do something wrong? And that question. God, that question. 30 years of being the big girl who didn't want to be trouble came up her throat all at once and nearly made her say, No, no, of course not. I'm sorry. She got as far as, It's not that it's. Then she stepped through the door and Ethan Carter was standing in the parking lot. Everything stopped. Nobody spoke for maybe 2 seconds. Lily's mouth opened. "Ethan?" Brandon Kell looked at him. And here is the thing that Lily would think about for weeks afterward, the detail she couldn't get past. Brandon did not look surprised. He looked at Ethan the way you look at a car you were expecting to be in the driveway. "Is this the neighbor?" he said. Ethan didn't answer him. He was looking at Lily. Only at her. "You want to ride home?" "That's the only question," Ethan said. "Nothing else. Do you want to ride home?" And Lily Morgan, standing between the two of them in a blue dress with flowers on it, felt her eyes go hot and hated herself for it. "Yes," she said. Brandon laughed. It was a light, easy, disbelieving laugh, and it was worse than shouting. "Wow, okay." He turned to Lily. "This is a little strange, right? You're going to tell me this is a little strange?" "Brandon, I took you to dinner. I've been nothing but a gentleman for 3 hours. And your neighbor drives 11 miles at 11 o'clock at night to stand in a parking lot." He looked at Ethan again, and something in his face changed. Got flatter, got interested. "How'd you know where we were?" "She told me where you were," Ethan said. "This afternoon. Over a fence." "Uh-huh. How'd you know about her job?" The question hit the pavement between them like a dropped tool. "I'm sorry. Signature authority on the operating account," Ethan said. That's a thing she'd mentioned to a friend once in 3 years. So how'd it come up on a first date? Brandon Kell smiled. He actually smiled, and it was not a nervous smile, and Lily felt her arms go cold. "Buddy," he said, "you're standing in a parking lot in a work coat in front of a woman who agreed to have dinner with me, and you're asking me about accounting. Do you hear yourself?" "Yeah, you sound like a man with a problem." "I've got one." "Then say what it is." And Ethan Carter, who had not said a true thing out loud about himself since a March morning 11 years ago, looked past Brandon Kell at the woman standing behind him and said, "She left her porch light on for me for 3 years, and I never once knocked on the door. That's my problem. It's got nothing to do with you." Nobody moved. Lily made a small sound. Brandon looked back and forth between them, and then he laughed again, shorter this time, and lifted his hands and stepped back. "You know what, fine. Take her." He pulled his keys out. "Lily, I'll call you, when your neighbor's not having a moment." "Don't," Lily said. He stopped. "Don't call me," she said. Her voice was shaking, and she didn't care. "And Brandon Craig doesn't know you. Marisol's never met you. You weren't at the Christmas party." The parking lot got very quiet. Brandon Kell stood there for about 3 seconds with his keys in his hand, and the pleasantness came off his face, the way a decal comes off a window all at once in one piece, and what was under it was nothing at all. Not anger. Nothing. "Huh," he said. Then he got in his car and drove out of the lot at a completely normal speed, using his turn signal, and was gone. 11:15. Lily stood on the curb and started to shake. "Hey." Ethan moved toward her. "Hey." "I'm fine." "Lily, I'm fine, I just need." She pressed the back of her hand against her mouth. "He asked me who signs the vendor checks. He asked me twice. He asked it 2 different ways, so it wouldn't sound like the same question." "Okay." "And I answered him, the first time. Ethan, I answered him." "Okay." "Don't say okay like that." "How am I saying it? Like I'm a kid who broke something." She turned on him, and there it was, the anger coming up out of the fear, because it had to come out somewhere. "How long did you know?" "I didn't know anything." "You drove 11 miles." "I know." "You drove 11 miles because a man asked about a house. Ethan, you left Emma. Marcy's there. You called Marcy Delgado at 10 o'clock at night." Her voice cracked. "For me." Ethan didn't answer. "Why?" Lily said. And he stood there in a parking lot, 38 years old, with the answer sitting right behind his teeth, the one he'd been sitting on since a driveway at 6 in the evening, the one that had been building in him for 3 years of Tupperware on a porch rail. "Because I didn't like the way he looked at your house," he said. Lily stared at him. "That's it. That's the answer. That's the answer I've got tonight." Something went out of her. She laughed one broken little laugh and wiped her face with both hands and said, "You're such a coward, Ethan Carter." "Yeah, I mean it. I know you do. Take me home." They drove 11 miles, and neither of them said anything for the first 8 of them. At 11:31, somewhere on the highway, Lily said to the windshield, "I sat there for 3 hours being grateful." Ethan's hands tightened on the wheel. "That's the part I can't stand," she said. "Not that he lied, that I was grateful. He picked me because he thought I'd be grateful." Lily. "He looked at a picture of me, and he thought that one won't ask questions. That one gets asked out twice in 3 years, and one of them's trying to sell her a Corolla." "Stop." "Why? It's true." "It's not true. Ethan, you don't. He picked you because you've got the keys," Ethan said. "Not because of how you look. Because you're the only person at that company who can move money without 4 people signing off. And he did his homework, and he found the one person in the building who's kind to everybody." He glanced over at her. "He picked you because you're good. Don't you dare turn that into something wrong with you." Lily put her hand over her mouth and turned toward the window and cried without making any noise at all, which he hated more than if she'd sobbed. 11:52. He pulled into his driveway and shut the truck off, and neither one of them got out. "Emma's asleep," Lily asked finally. "Should be. Marcy's in there watching your TV. Almost certainly eating my crackers." Lily laughed wet and small. "You're going to have to explain this to her. I'm going to have to explain it to Ray, which is worse. Ray Delgado can't keep a secret to save his life. Ray Delgado's told Marcy things about me I haven't told myself." Another silence. Then Lily said quietly to the dashboard, "What did you mean about the porch light?" Ethan didn't answer. "Because you said it in front of him," she said. "You said it out loud in a parking lot in front of a stranger, and I've been sitting here for 20 minutes wondering if you'd say it to me." Still nothing. "Ethan, I don't know how to do this," he said. "Do what?" "Any of it. I haven't." "Lily, I haven't." He put both hands flat on the wheel. "It's been 11 years. I know how to fix a furnace, and I know how to get her to school, and that's the whole list." That's not an answer either. "No." Lily opened the door. She stopped with one foot on the driveway and looked back at him, and her face was ruined, and her hair was a mess, and she had never in her life looked more like a person to him. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I mean that. I don't know what would have happened." Lily. "Good night, Ethan." She got out. She walked up her own walk, and she didn't turn around, and she went inside, and about 4 seconds later, the porch light went off. Ethan sat in his truck in the dark with his hands on the wheel. 12:14. Marcy left. He locked the door behind her. He went and stood in the doorway of his daughter's room for a minute, the way he did every night, and then he went to the kitchen and got a glass of water he didn't drink. 12:26. His phone buzzed on the counter. He picked it up expecting Lily's name. It wasn't Lily's name. It wasn't a name at all. It was a number he didn't know with an area code he did. The message was one line. "Nice house. Tell your daughter the bike chain looks better." 12:26. Ethan read the message 4 times. "Nice house. Tell your daughter the bike chain looks better." Then he put the phone face down on the counter, walked to the front window and stood off to the side of it, the way you do when you don't want to be a shape in the glass, and looked at Delaney Street. Empty. The Novak's porch light. A cat on the Cardenas driveway. Nothing else. I went and checked the back door. Locked. He checked the window over the sink, the one that never latched right, and it was open 2 inches because it was May, and he'd opened it himself at 7 o'clock while he burned a grilled cheese. He closed it. He turned the latch, and it didn't catch the way it hadn't caught for 2 years, and Ethan Carter stood in his own kitchen at 12:30 in the morning with his hands flat on the counter and understood that he had been putting off that repair since before his daughter could read. He went to the garage, got a bar clamp, and a scrap of 2x4 came back and wedged the window shut so hard the frame creaked. 12:39. He went into Emma's room. She was flat on her stomach with one leg out of the covers, dead asleep, and he stood there in the dark and listened to her breathe for about a minute and a half. Then he went back to the kitchen and called the sheriff's non-emergency line. The woman on the other end was patient and tired, and asked him if anyone had made a direct threat. He mentioned my daughter. Did he threaten to harm her, sir? He said, tell your daughter the bike chain looks better. There was a pause. So he's saying he was at your house. He's saying he was close enough to see this bike. Has this person been on your property? I don't know. Do you have a name? Brandon Kell. Maybe. That's the name he gave the woman he took to dinner tonight. And your relationship to her? Ethan opened his mouth, and there it was again, the question he'd been getting all night from every direction, and he still didn't have a word for it. She's my neighbor, he said. 12:51. He texted Lily. Ethan, are you awake? Lily. Yes. Ethan, check your doors. 3 dots. Lily. Ethan, you're scaring me. Ethan, check them and come to the window. 12:54. She came to her kitchen window in a robe with her hair pushed back and her face still swollen, and he stood at his and held up his phone with the message on the screen. And even from 40 feet in the dark, he watched her read it and watched her hand come up to her collarbone. Her phone lit up in her hand. Lily. That's not a threat. That's a receipt. Ethan. What? Lily. He's telling you he was there before. He wants you to know he's been watching the street. Lily. Ethan, he was on Delaney before tonight. Ethan looked across at her, and she looked back at him, and neither one of them typed anything for about 10 seconds. Then Lily. Come over. I'll put coffee on. I'm not going to sleep anyway. Ethan can't. Emma. Lily. Right. Lily. Of course. I'm sorry that was stupid. Ethan. It wasn't stupid. Ethan. Bring the coffee here. 1:11. She came across the grass in a robe and sneakers, carrying a thermos and a laptop under her arm, and he opened the door before she knocked, and she stepped into his kitchen and stopped. You wedged your window shut with a piece of lumber. Yeah. With a clamp. It's a good clamp. Ethan. I'll fix it right tomorrow. He took the thermos out of her hands because she was holding it too hard. Sit down. She sat. She opened the laptop. She didn't look at him. I want to say something first, she said, and I want to say it before I lose my nerve, so don't talk. Okay. I called you a coward in a parking lot. You did. You'd just driven 11 miles for me, and I called you a coward. She pressed her fingers against her eyes. That was the meanest thing I've ever said to another human being. It was accurate. Don't do that. Don't let me off. She dropped her hands. I was humiliated, and I put it on you because you were the only person standing there. That's what my mother used to do, and I swore I'd never. Lily. I said don't talk. I'm going to talk. She stopped. You were right, Ethan said. 3 years. So it wasn't mean, it was just true, and you can say true things to me. Now open the computer. 1:19. She logged in. I shouldn't be doing this from home, she said. It's against about 4 policies. Then don't. No, I'm doing it. Her fingers were already moving. Because I've had one thought in my head since the highway, and I can't get it out. And if I sit in that house until 8 in the morning waiting to check, I'm going to come apart. What's the thought? He didn't ask me to do anything. Ethan sat down across from her. Say that again. 3 hours. She was scrolling. 3 hours of the nicest man in Ohio. And he never asked me for a single thing. Not a favor, not a password, not a lunch meeting with my boss. Nothing. Ethan. If you spend $300 on dinner and a haircut like that, you ask for something. Unless he already had it. Lily's hand stopped on the keys. Yeah, she said. 1:26. She pulled up the vendor payment register for the current month, and Ethan watched her face while she read, and he had never in his life wanted so badly to be able to see a screen from the wrong side of a table. Anything. Give me a second. Lily. There's 400 lines, Ethan, give me a. She stopped. She sat back about 2 inches. What? He said. There's a vendor, Lily said slowly, called Kestrel Site Services. Is that a real one? It's a real one. They did the dirt work on the Wexford Middle School job, site prep, hauling, all of that. She was clicking. We've paid them 11 times in 2 years. Legitimate. Everything about them is legitimate. So on April 18th, we paid them $94,000. She turned the laptop half toward him and pointed at nothing he could read. And on May 2nd, we paid them 91. And on May 9th, we paid them 112. That's a lot in 3 weeks. Wexford closed out in February, Lily said. We haven't had a Kestrel invoice that should exist since February. Ethan felt something go cold along his arms. Who approved them? Lily didn't answer. Lily. Who approved them? She looked up, and her face had gone the color of the tablecloth in that restaurant. I did, she said. 131. That's not possible. It's my login. It's my approval stamp. It's my initials in the memo field. She was scrolling faster now, and her hands had started to shake, and she kept typing anyway. 418-5259. All three. All me. Then somebody used your account. Ethan, nobody has my password. Somebody does. Nobody. She stopped. It's on a sticky note. Silence. Say that again, Ethan said. It's on a sticky note under my keyboard tray because they make us change it every 90 days, and it has to have a symbol in it, and I'm 34 accounts deep in that system. Her voice was climbing. Everybody does it. Everybody in that office does it. It's the stupidest thing in the world, and everybody does it. Okay. Don't say okay. Lily, look at me. He put his hand flat on the table between them, not touching her just there. How much total? 297. 297,000, Lily said. In 21 days, out of an operating account I have signature authority on. Approved by me. 138. She got up and walked to his sink and stood there with her back to him. I'm going to be sick. You're not. I might be. Then be sick. It's a sink, that's what it's there for. Lily made a sound that was half a laugh and half something else, and stayed where she was. They're going to think it was me, she said. No. Ethan, listen to what you're looking at. There's a woman who processes the payments. There's a woman who approves the payments. There's a woman who reconciles the account those payments came out of. It's the same woman. It's me. That's the whole job. She turned around. And on top of it, there's going to be a receipt at Rossini's from a man nobody at that company has ever met, sitting across from me 2 hours after the last one cleared. Ethan stood up. When did the last one go out? 9th, 2 weeks ago. Then why the date? What? Why take you to dinner 2 weeks after the money's already gone? He was moving now back and forth in his own kitchen, the way he did when a system wasn't behaving and the fault code was lying to him. He's got the login. He's got the vendor. He's already got the money. What does he need with a Thursday night? I don't know. He needs something. Nobody spends that night for nothing. Maybe he wanted to know if I'd noticed. Ethan stopped. Say it again. Lily's mouth was open slightly. She was looking at the middle distance. He asked me about certified payroll, she said. He asked me who signs off. He asked how often we run reconciliations. He asked what our year-end looked like. She put her hand over her mouth. Oh my God, Ethan, he was checking whether I'd found it yet. 146. And when he figured out I hadn't, she said, he relaxed. He got charming. That's when the date got good. Right around 9:45 it got good. Because you were still clean. Because I was still asleep. She sat back down hard. He was buying time. He needed to know how long he had before somebody looked. How long does he have? Quarter close is the 12th. Our outside CPA does a vendor sample every quarter. Randy Voss. He's been doing our books for 9 years, and he is the single most boring, thorough human being alive. She looked up. Ethan, if Randy pulls Kestrel in the sample, it's over. That's 3 weeks from Tuesday. So he's got 3 weeks. He's got 3 weeks to be gone, or he's got 3 weeks to make sure it lands on somebody. Ethan said nothing. Lily looked at him. That's why he texted you, she said quietly. 152. Explain that. He watched you tonight. Her voice had gone very steady, which was worse than the shaking. He watched you drive 11 miles and stand in a parking lot in a work coat and say a thing about a porch light in front of a stranger. Ethan, he found out in 90 seconds that there's a man on Delaney Street who will do anything for me. So what happens when the money comes up missing and there's a single mother of nobody with $297,000 against her name, and the only person in her life who'd fight for her is a guy who's already been told exactly how close somebody can get to his 8-year-old? Ethan put both hands on the back of a chair. He's not buying my silence, he said. He's pricing it. 2:11. Neither of them said anything for a while. The refrigerator cycled on and off. Okay, Ethan said finally. Then we don't wait 3 weeks. Ethan. You call somebody in this morning, your boss, the CPA, whoever. And say what? Hi Doug, it's Lily. I've approved $300,000 in fraudulent payments, but don't worry. I found it myself at 2 in the morning on my personal laptop, which is also a policy violation. Yes. That's insane. That's the only version where you're the one who found it. Lily's mouth closed. You go in first, Ethan said, or you spend the rest of your life being the person they caught. There's no third door. You've been thinking about this for 11 minutes. I've been fixing broken things for 16 years. You call it in before it burns the house down, or you don't get to say you called it in. Lily put her face in her hands. Randy, she said into her palms. Not Doug. Randy Voss. He's outside the company. If I call Doug and Doug's the one who did it, I've just told the arsonist where I keep the matches. You think it's your boss? I think somebody in that building sold me, Lily said. And I think I've made that person a birthday cake. 6:40. She left at 3 and neither of them slept. At 6:40. Ethan was in his kitchen making eggs when Emma came out with her hair in a state and stopped in the doorway. Why is there wood in the window? It's a repair. It's a 2x4. It's a temporary repair. Why did Miss Marcy sleep on our couch? She didn't sleep on it. She sat on it and she ate my crackers and then she went home. Emma climbed onto the stool with the wobbly leg and studied him with an expression that was 100% her mother. Something happened, she said. Ethan slid the eggs onto her plate. Yeah. Are you going to tell me? He thought about it for a second, and he thought about all the years he'd handled her the way you handle glass, and he thought about a text message at 12:26 in the morning that used the words, your daughter. Some of it, he said. Miss Lily went out last night with a man who lied to her. Emma's face changed instantly. Is she okay? She's okay. Did he? He didn't touch her. He lied about who he was, and he did it to get to something at her work, and it's a mess, and grown-ups are going to sort it out. Is she sad? She's very sad. Emma put her fork down. Then why is she at her house, she said, and you're at our house? Ethan stood at the counter with a spatula in his hand, and no answer at all, on 52. He dropped Emma at school and sat in the truck in the lot for 2 minutes with his phone in his hand, and then he called Ray Delgado and told him he needed the day. Take it. I'll make it up Saturday. Ethan, take the day. A pause. Marcy says the kid's got a thing about a bike chain. Marcy's got a big mouth. Marcy's got a big everything. It's why I married her. Another pause, and then Ray's voice dropped out of the joke. How bad is it? Bad. Cops. Not yet. Then get to yet, Ray said, and hung up. 8:15. Lily walked into Halverson and Reed at 8:15 in the same cardigan she wore every Friday and said good morning to 11 people, and every single one of them said good morning back, and she smiled at all of them, and by the time she got to her desk, she felt like she was made out of paper. She'd called Randy Voss at 7 from her car. He'd listened for 4 minutes without saying one word, which she'd found terrifying, and then he'd said, Lily, don't touch anything, don't print anything, don't email me. I'll be there at 11, and I'll be there to see Doug, not you. If anybody asks you, and I haven't spoken. Randy, am I in trouble? And Randy Voss, 64, who had once spent 40 minutes explaining depreciation to her at a Christmas party while she looked for an exit, said the kindest thing anyone had said to her in a year. You called me, he said. People who take money don't call me. 9:03. Marisol Vega came to her desk at 9:03 with 2 coffees and eyes so red they'd clearly been red since 11 the night before. Lily. Hi. I have not slept. Neither have I. I have called Craig 11 times. Marisol set the coffee down, and her hands were unsteady. He didn't come home last night. He texted me at 6 in the morning and said he was at his brother's and he'd call me later. Lily, he has never once done that in 9 years. Lily felt her stomach drop straight through the floor of the building. Mari, I keep telling myself it's nothing. Mari, sit down. He set you up with a man who doesn't exist, and now he won't come home. Marisol sat down in the chair beside Lily's desk and put her hands over her face, and out of 9 years of friendship. The only thing Lily could think about was that she had to be careful now that she was standing in the middle of something, and this woman was either the person she loved most in that building or a witness, and she hated herself for the thought, and she thought it anyway. How much does Craig owe? Lily said. Marisol's hands came down. What? Marisol, how much? There was a silence of about 4 seconds, and in it, Lily watched a woman decide whether to lie. 40,000, Marisol whispered. As of March. He said he'd handled it. 9/11. How does he know your husband? Lily said. Not Craig. Brandon. How does Brandon know Craig? Golf. That's what he... Marisol. The card room, Marisol said. There's a place off Route 4. It's a bar. It's not a bar. That's where he knows him from. She was crying now without any sound at all. He's been going there since 2023, and I've been pretending it's Tuesday night bowling for 2.5 years. Lily sat very still. Did Craig ever come to the office? He picks me up. Has he ever been at my desk? Marisol looked at her, and she didn't say no. 9:14. He waited for me here, Marisol said. In February, when my car was in the shop, he sat at your desk for maybe an hour because it was the only chair with a window, and he... She stopped. Lily, what did he do? I need you to not say anything to anybody until 11 o'clock. What did he do? Marisol, I need you to be my friend for 2 hours and not ask me one more question. And Marisol Vega, who had put her own husband in the middle of this without knowing it, looked at Lily for a long moment and then nodded and picked up her coffee and went back to her desk, and Lily watched her go and did not know if she'd just done the smartest thing of her life or the last stupid one. 10:40. Ethan spent the morning doing the only thing he could think to do, which was drive. He drove to the county recorder's office and stood at a counter and asked a woman named Charlene whether a person could look up who owned a company. Secretary of State, Charlene said. Business search. It's free. You can do it on your phone, honey. He did it on his phone in the parking lot. Kestrel Site Services, LLC. Registered, 2019. Statutory agent, a name he didn't know. Registered address and office suite in Fairborn. He typed in Brandon Kell. Nothing. He sat there with his thumbs on the screen and thought about it, and then he typed in the phone number from the text message instead. And the fourth result down was a review left in 2022 on a page for a contracting outfit in Springfield, and it was signed with a different name, Bryce Kelleher. Ethan looked at it for a long time. Then he searched that. 11:02. He was still in the parking lot when Lily called him, and he picked up before the first ring finished. Randy's here, she said. He's been in with Doug for 40 minutes and the door's closed. Lily. They pulled Doug's assistant in 10 minutes ago. Ethan, everybody in this office can see that door. Lily, listen to me. They're going to call me in. Lily. Brandon Kell isn't Brandon Kell. She went quiet. His name is Bryce Kelleher, Ethan said. He's got a judgment against him in Clark County from 2021 and a civil case in Montgomery County from last year, and both of them were filed by construction companies, small ones, under 50 employees. Oh my God. Lily, you're not the first. How many? 2 that I can find in 10 minutes on a phone in a parking lot. He heard her breathing. Which means there's more, and it means somebody's already looked at him, and it means you're not a woman who got fooled. You're number 3 in a pattern, and patterns are the thing that saves people. There was a long pause. Say that again, Lily said. You're not a woman who got fooled. The other part. Patterns save people. No, Lily said. The first part. 11:19. They called her in at 11:19. She walked past 9 desks to a conference room with the blinds turned, and Doug Halverson was standing at the window with his back to the door, and Randy Voss was sitting with a legal pad in front of him, and there was a third man there in a golf shirt whom Lily had never seen in her life. Sit down, Lily, Doug said. She sat. This is Mark. He's with the company that handles our insurance. Okay. Do you want to have somebody in here with you? And that was when Lily Morgan understood completely and finally what kind of room she was in. Should I? She said. Nobody answered her for about 2 seconds, and 2 seconds is a very long time. Randy tells me you called him at 7 this morning, Doug said. I did. Why not me? Because I didn't know if it was you, Lily said. The room got very quiet. Doug Halverson turned around from the window. He was 58 years old, and he had hired her at 26, and he had cried at her desk when his father died, and he looked at her now like a man looking at a stranger who'd broken into his house. That's quite a thing to say. You asked. $297,000, Lily. Yes. Approved under your credentials. Yes. 3 separate times, all under the threshold that triggers a second signature. He put both hands on the back of a chair. Somebody who knew that threshold picked those numbers. Yes. Who knows that threshold? 6 people, Lily said. And every one of them is in this building. 11:31. They took her laptop. They took her badge. They asked her to write out a statement in longhand, and Mark from the insurance company asked her 4 times in slightly different ways whether she'd met the man at Rossini's before Thursday, and each time she said no, he wrote something down. At 11:52, Doug said the words administrative leave, and said pending, and said standard, and said none of this is a conclusion. Lily and every single one of those words went past her like traffic. At 11:58, she stood up. Can I say something? Of course. I've worked here 8 years. Her voice was completely steady, and she had no idea where it was coming from. I've never taken a day of unpaid. I've never missed a close. I ran payroll from a hospital waiting room when my dad had his stroke because it was the 15th. She looked at Doug. And when I found this at 2 o'clock this morning, I had one thought, and the thought was, they're going to think it's me. Not I'm ruined, not I'm scared. They're going to think it's me. Because I know exactly what it looks like. Nobody said anything. I could have deleted 3 lines, Lily said. I had the access. I had 6 hours. I called Randy instead. That's all I've got. That's my whole defense, and it's not evidence, and I know it. Randy Voss wrote 1 word on his legal pad. 12:20. They walked her out. They didn't call it that. A woman from HR carried a cardboard box with a cactus and 2 picture frames in it and made conversation about the weather all the way across the parking lot, and 11 people watched through the window, and Lily Morgan smiled at every single one of them. She got to her car and put the box on the passenger seat and shut the door and did not cry. She sat there. Then she looked up, and Ethan Carter's truck was parked 4 spaces away. 12:23. He got out. He came over. He didn't say anything. She rolled the window down. They took my badge, she said. I know. How do you know? Because it's 20 past 12 and you're carrying a box. Lily laughed and it broke apart in the middle, and she pressed both hands over her face, and finally, in the parking lot of the company she'd given 8 years to, she stopped smiling. Ethan opened her door and crouched down beside the car, so his head was lower than hers, which she would remember later as the single kindest thing anybody had ever done for her. I told them I didn't know if it was Doug, she said through her hands. Good. It's not good. Ethan, it's not good, I accused my boss. You told the truth in a room full of people who were building a case. You'll take that trade. They looked at me like, I know, like I was somebody they used to know. Her hands came down and her face was wrecked. 9 years of birthdays, I made Doug's wife a cake. Lily, I know what happens next. I've watched it happen to other people. They freeze my access and they hire a firm, and in 6 weeks, somebody quietly decides it's cheaper to let it be me. Her voice cracked wide open. I'm 30 years old, and I'm about to be a woman who stole $300,000, and no matter what happens after, that's the sentence. That's the sentence people will say. Did you hear about Lily? Ethan didn't move. And the worst part, she said. The worst part is, I keep thinking about the dress. What? I stood in my kitchen for 40 minutes with my shoes on. I asked you if I looked all right. She was gasping now. I was so happy, Ethan. For about 4 hours I was the happiest I've been in years, and it was a man doing paperwork. Lily. Why are you here? She said. Why do you keep showing up? You've got a kid and a job, and you've been at my elbow for 14 hours, and I have asked you 3 times, and you have not once given me a straight answer. So give me one. Right now. Because I have nothing left to hold on to, and I cannot stand one more person in my life being polite at me. I'm not being polite. Then say it. Lily. Say it, Ethan. And Ethan Carter, on one knee in a parking lot with his hands on the frame of her car door, said it. Because I can't lose you. Lily stopped breathing. I sat in that kitchen last night and did the math, he said. 11 years. I've been keeping myself alive on a schedule since Sarah died, and I've been telling myself it's for Emma, and it's not. It's because if I don't feel anything, I can't lose anything. His voice was shaking, and he didn't stop. And then you stood in my driveway in a blue dress and told me you had a date, and I dropped a wrench on my own foot and didn't feel it. That's what happened. That's the whole thing. Ethan. 3 years you left food on my porch and never rang the bell. 3 years. I couldn't figure out why that undid me every single time. He looked up at her. It's because you never once made me say thank you. Nobody's ever done that for me. Not one person in my life has ever given me something I didn't have to pay for. Lily's mouth was open. There was nothing coming out of it. So no, I don't have a plan, Ethan said. I've got a kid and a truck and a window held shut with a piece of lumber, and there's a man out there who knows my address, and I'm scared out of my mind. But you asked me why I keep showing up. He stood. That's why. And Lily Morgan sat in her car with a cactus and a cardboard box on the seat beside her, and looked at him and could not say one single word. 12:31. Lily Morgan looked at him for 4 full seconds, and then she put her hands back on the steering wheel. I have to go, she said. Ethan stayed where he was crouched by the door. Lily. I have to go, Ethan. You asked me a question. I answered it. I know. And now you're leaving. Yes. Her voice came out even, which frightened him more than crying would have. Because I am on administrative leave for $300,000, and I have a cactus in a box, and you picked today to tell me that, and I can't hold both of those things at the same time. I'm sorry. I just can't. He stood up and stepped back and let her close the door, and she backed out of the space and drove out of the lot. And Ethan Carter stood in the parking lot of Halverson and Reed with his hands hanging at his sides. 1:15. She wasn't home when he got there. Her car was gone until almost 5, and when it finally came down, Delaney, it went straight into her drive, and she was inside her front door in under 9 seconds, and the deadbolt turned so loud he heard it from his own porch. 5:20. He texted her. Ethan. You don't have to answer anything I said. I'd still like to know you're eating. Nothing. 6:40. Ethan. There's a man out there who knows this street. I'm not going to pretend that's fine because you're mad at me. Lily. I'm not mad at you. Ethan. Then talk to me. The 3 dots came up. They stayed for almost a minute. Then they went away and nothing arrived, and the porch light next door did not come on that night either. 7:55. Where's Miss Lily? Ethan didn't look up from the stove. She's home. Her lights are off. She's tired, baby. She's not tired. Emma was on the wobbly stool with her chin on her arms. She didn't take her trash can in. She always takes her trash can in on Friday. It's still out there. Ethan turned around. His daughter was 8 years old, and she had been tracking a woman's trash can. Emma. Is it because of the man who lied? Partly. And partly what? He put a plate down in front of her and sat across from her and decided for the second time in 2 days to stop treating her like something that might break. "And partly because I said something to her today that I should have said 3 years ago," he said, "and I said it on the worst day of her life, and now she doesn't know what to do with it." Emma looked at him for a long moment. "You told her you like her?" "Something like that." "Finally," Emma said, and picked up her fork, and Ethan laughed so hard he had to put his hand over his eyes. Saturday, 10:15. Emma walked across the grass by herself with a bag of apples she'd made him buy, and Ethan stood at the window and watched her ring the bell. The door opened about 6 inches. He couldn't hear it. He watched his daughter talk for maybe 20 seconds, holding up the bag. He watched Lily crouch down in the doorway. He watched her put her hand on the side of Emma's head and say something. Then the door closed. Emma came back across the grass with the apples and her face absolutely level, and she came inside and set the bag on the counter and said, "She said maybe another Saturday." "Okay." "She said she's not good company right now." "That's probably true." Emma stood there. "Dad," she said. She was crying before she opened the door. Her whole face was already wet. And then his daughter went to her room and shut the door quietly, which was so much worse than a slam. Saturday, 10:31. Ethan crossed the grass and knocked, and when nothing happened, he knocked again, and when nothing happened after that, he said through the door loud enough to carry, "I'll stand out here all day, Lily. I've got nowhere to be, and I'm very stubborn, and Mrs. Fitch is going to start watching from her window in about 4 minutes." The door opened. She looked like she hadn't slept in 2 days because she hadn't. "That's manipulative," she said. "Yeah. You used Mrs. Fitch. I used what I had." She stepped back from the door and left it open, which was as close to an invitation as she was capable of that morning, and Ethan followed her into her kitchen and stood there while she filled a kettle she had no intention of using. "You made my kid walk over here with apples," he said. "She came on her own. She's 8. She came because you taught her that showing up is what people do." He put his hands on the back of a chair. "Lily, she counted your trash can." Lily set the kettle down hard. "Don't." "Don't what?" "Don't make me the good thing that happened to your family." She turned around. "That's exactly what I can't do right now." "That's not what I'm—" "It is." Her voice went up and cracked and she let it. "Ethan, you have not touched anything in 11 years. Not one thing. And then a man in a nice car pulls into this street and something breaks in you, and 40 hours later, you're on your knees in a parking lot telling me you can't lose me. Do you know what that is? Tell me what it is." "It's an emergency," Lily said. "That's what it is. You're an emergency man. That's what you are. That's what you do. Something breaks and you fix it. And I have been the loudest broken thing in this zip code since Thursday night." Ethan didn't say anything. "And I will take it," she said. "That's the awful part. I want to take it so badly that I've been sitting in this kitchen for 18 hours making myself not walk across that grass. Because if I take it now, I will never know." "Know what?" "Whether you'd have ever said one word of it if I hadn't been in trouble." Saturday, 10:39. "I've been the convenient one my whole life," Lily said. "I'm the friend you call. I'm the one who covers the shift. I'm the one who brings the ham sandwiches when somebody dies, and everybody at that church hall loves me for about 90 minutes, and then they go home to their people." She wiped her face with the flat of her hand. "Nobody ever picked me on a normal Tuesday, Ethan. Nobody picks me when nothing's wrong. They pick me when something is. That's not. And the one time in 3 years that a man looked at my picture and asked about me, it turned out he was doing paperwork." She laughed and it came apart. "So forgive me if I need to know the difference. Forgive me if I can't just believe you because you said it nicely in a parking lot." Ethan stood in her kitchen and understood that everything he had was worthless because every single thing he could say was a sentence. And she'd had a man say beautiful sentences to her for 3 hours on Thursday night. "Okay," he said. "Okay. Yeah. That's it. Okay." "You don't want words," Ethan said. "You've had enough words. I'm not going to stand here and pour more on you." He went to the door. "Lock this behind me," he said. and take your trash can in because my kid's keeping track. Saturday 1:12. He called the sheriff's office again and got a name this time, Deputy Marla Reyes, and she took the text message seriously in a way the Nightline hadn't, because by then there was a fraud report from an outside CPA sitting in the same building with the same last name attached to it. Mr. Carter, has he contacted you again? No. Has anyone been on your property? I don't know. That's the thing. I can't prove he was ever here. Do you have cameras? No. Get one, Reyes said. Today. The cheap kind is fine. And Mr. Carter, I want to say something and I want you to hear it as advice and not as a lecture. Men like this do not usually come to the house. They come to the story. If you get a chance to be the person who was hostile in a parking lot, don't take it. Saturday 4:50. He bought 2 cameras at the hardware store on 6th and mounted one over his own door and walked the other one across the grass and set it on Lily's step with the box unopened and did not knock. At 6:15, it was gone from the step. At 9 that night, a small white light came on over her door. Sunday 11:11. Emma made her go to church. That was the only word for it. Ethan hadn't been in a pew since the funeral, but Emma came out of her room in a dress at 10:30 and said, "Miss Lily goes at 11, and she sits in the 4th row on the left." And Ethan Carter, who did not have a single argument left in him, put on a collared shirt. They sat in the 5th row. Lily didn't turn around once. Afterward in the parking lot, 4 different people said hello to Lily, and she smiled at every one of them, and Ethan watched her do it and thought about the tray at the block party. Then Marisol Vega came around the corner of the building with her eyes swollen shut, and everything changed again. Sunday, 12:02. He's home, Marisol said. Craig came home last night. Lily went completely still. Marisol, he sat on the floor of our bedroom for 2 hours, and he wouldn't look at me. Marisol grabbed both of Lily's hands. Lily, he wants to talk to you. He asked me to ask you. He said he'll go to the police after he said he'll go, but he wants to say it to you first. That's not. Lily's voice failed. Mari, I can't be in a room with him. I have a lawyer as of Friday afternoon. He can't. He's going to say it to somebody, Ethan said. Both women looked at him. Sorry, he said, but he is. And in about 4 days, he's going to have an attorney too, and after that he doesn't say anything to anybody ever again. Sunday 2:40. They did it on Lily's front lawn in daylight with Marisol standing there and Ethan 12 feet away, and Lily's phone recording on the porch rail in plain sight, which was the only condition she gave. Craig Vega was 41 and looked 60. I didn't take your password, he said. Craig, I need to say it in order or I'm not going to get through it. He had his hands jammed in his jacket pockets. In February, I owed a man $41,000. He's not a nice man, and it wasn't a nice number. And in March, a guy at the card room starts buying me drinks, and he's funny, and he knows the business, and he says he's in development, and after about 3 weeks he says, Craig, I might have something that gets you square. Lily didn't move. He asked me for a list, Craig said. That's all. That's the whole thing he ever asked me for. He said at your wife's company, who's the one that's kind to everybody? Sunday, 2:44. Lily's mouth opened. Say that again, she said. He said the words, who's the one that's kind to everybody? And I laughed because I thought it was a compliment. I thought it was, you know who's the nice one. Craig's face came apart. And I said Lily. I said Lily Morgan without stopping for 1 second. Because you are. Because you made a cake for my wife's mother when she died, and you didn't even know her. Marisol made a sound behind her hands. That's what he wanted, Craig said. The kind one. Because the kind one gives people the benefit of the doubt, and the kind one doesn't get suspicious, and the kind one is the one everybody believes stole it, because the kind one is the one nobody's watching. Lily sat down on her own step. I didn't know about the account, Craig said. I swear to God, Lily, I didn't know he was after money. I thought he wanted an introduction. I thought he wanted a bid. I thought. He stopped. I told myself 11 different things, and every one of them was so I could sleep. How did he get in? Lily said. He didn't need a password. Craig? He needed 40 minutes at a desk, Craig said. In February, when Marisol's car was in the shop. Sunday, 2:51. Lily stood up so fast, the phone tipped over on the rail. You sat at my desk. For an hour. Was he there? He came in with coffee, Craig said. He came in with 2 coffees like he was picking me up, and he stood at your desk, and he talked to me about the Bengals for maybe 5 minutes, and I went to the bathroom. He looked at her. That's it. That's the whole crime. I went to the bathroom and left a man alone at your desk, and I've been sick every day since Friday morning. The sticky note, Ethan said. The what? Under her keyboard tray. Craig looked at Lily, and Lily looked back at him, and neither of them said anything for about 3 seconds. And then Craig Vega put his face in both hands and started to cry in a way that grown men do not usually cry in front of other people. I'm going to lose everything, he said. Yes, Lily said. You are. Marisol made a small sound. I'm sorry, Lily said, and she was crying too, and her voice was still steady. I'm sorry, Mari, but he is, and I'm not going to stand on my own lawn and tell him it'll be okay to make this easier. He gave a stranger my name because it was the easiest thing in the room. Lily. You will go to the sheriff's office tomorrow morning at 8, Lily said to Craig. And you will say every word of that to a deputy named Marla Reyes, and you will say the thing about the list. The exact words. Who's the one that's kind to everybody? Okay. Say it back to me. Who's the one that's kind to everybody? Because that sentence is the only thing standing between me and a felony, Lily said. And it came out of your mouth, and now you're going to put it back. Sunday, 3:10. They left. Marisol didn't look at Lily, and Lily didn't blame her. Ethan stood on the grass. Say it, Lily said. Say what? Whatever it is, you've had a face for 20 minutes. February, Ethan said. What about it? He got in February. The money moved in April and May. He was already walking toward his own house, and then stopping and turning around the way he did in his kitchen. Lily, he sat on it for 8 weeks. Why? Because he was watching the cycle. He needed to see a full close. No. Ethan shook his head slowly. He needed to see you. He needed 8 weeks to be sure you were what Craig said you were. Lily didn't say anything. He didn't gamble on you, Ethan said. He studied you. And then he took you to dinner 2 weeks after the money was gone to check whether the nice one had turned into somebody who checks. Stop. And when he found out you hadn't checked yet. Ethan, stop. He's not done, Ethan said. Sunday, 3:14. Lily's hand went out and grabbed the porch rail. What do you mean he's not done? You said quarter close is the 12th. Yes. You said Randy pulls a vendor sample every quarter, and if Kestrel comes up in it, it's over for him. Yes. So he has until the 12th, Ethan said. Not to run, to finish. Finish what there's nothing left to. She stopped. Her whole body stopped. Oh my God, she said. What? The badge, Lily. They took my badge and my laptop on Friday at 11:30, she said, and she was moving now up her own steps, fumbling with the door. They killed my building access. But Ethan, listened to me. Killing a badge and killing a user account in the accounting system are 2 completely different tickets, and they go to 2 completely different people, and one of them is Doug's assistant, and one of them is an IT vendor in Beaver Creek that answers on Mondays. Are you saying? I'm saying that as of right now, my login might still be alive, Lily said, on a system I can no longer be anywhere near. Sunday, 3:22. Randy Voss picked up on the second ring on a Sunday afternoon, which told Lily everything about how his weekend had been going. Lily, we can't. Randy, don't hang up. I'm not going to say one word about the case. I'm going to ask you a technical question, and you can decide what to do with it. A pause. Ask it. Is my user account still active in the system? The pause on the other end was longer this time. Why? Randy said. Because if it is, and a 4th payment goes out under it while I'm sitting in my house with no badge, no laptop, and no VPN token, then it doesn't matter what anybody in that conference room believes about me. Her voice was shaking, but it was going fast now, the way it did when she was in a spreadsheet and the numbers finally spoke. Randy, that's not a risk. That's the best thing that could happen to me. Lily. Don't turn it off, she said. Say that again. Do not turn my account off. Watch it. Log everything. IP addresses timestamps all of it and put a hold on outgoing ACH over 50,000. So it queues instead of clears, and then leave the door open and go home. She closed her eyes. Randy, he has until the 12th. He is going to try to walk out the back with one more, and he is going to do it under my name, because the whole point of me was that I'm the one it lands on. Randy Voss was quiet for 11 seconds. I'd have to bring Doug in, he said. Then bring Doug in. You told a room of people on Friday you didn't know if it was Doug. I still don't, Lily said. But if it's him, he'll turn the account off, and that'll tell you something too. Another silence. Where'd you learn to think like that? Randy said. From 9 years of watching you, Lily said, and hung up and sat down on her own floor, with her back against the door. Sunday, 3:41. Ethan was still standing in her doorway. You just set a trap, he said. I set a control. Lily. Fine, I set a trap. She pushed her hair back with both hands and laughed wildly once. I've reconciled bank statements for 8 years, Ethan. 8 years of being the woman who catches the $4 error. I'm very good at this, and nobody has ever once asked me to be good at anything except cake. And Ethan Carter looked at her sitting on her own floor with her hair everywhere, and he thought, that's the laugh. That's the real one. And a man in a good jacket had gotten 3 hours and never heard it. Monday, 8:05. Craig Vega walked into the sheriff's office and told Deputy Marla Reyes everything, including the sentence, and it took him 90 minutes, and at the end of it, he asked whether he should call his wife or whether she'd rather he didn't. Monday, 9:40. Reyes called Ethan. Mr. Carter, Bryce Kelleher. 2 prior civil judgments, no criminal, which is unusual, and which means he's good. Both prior companies settled quietly. Settled with who? With their own employee, Reyes said. Both times, a woman in the accounting department signed a separation agreement, paid back a portion, and never worked in the field again. Ethan closed his eyes. He's done it twice. He's been caught twice, Reyes said. Those are different numbers. Monday, 6:20. Emma made the caramel apples with Marcy Delgado instead at Marcy's kitchen table, and came home with 3 of them on sticks in a bakery box, and she put the box on the counter and said, "One's for Miss Lily. I'm not taking it over. You are." Emma. You're the one who made her sad. That's not exactly. Dad. 8 years old, hands on her hips, dead center of the kitchen. Mom used to say you could fix anything in the house, but you wouldn't fix anything in your face. Ethan sat down on the stool. She said it to Grandma on the phone and I was under the table. Emma's chin was going. I've had it for 4 years, and I never said it, and I'm saying it now because Miss Lily's trash can is still out there, and I hate it. Tuesday, 7:50. Ethan went up to the attic, which he had not done in 11 years, except twice, and came down with a wooden cigar box that had belonged to his father. He spent an hour and a half at the kitchen table putting things in it. Tuesday, 9:30. He knocked on her door with the box under his arm. She opened it in a sweatshirt with her hair in a clip. I told you, Lily said, I can't do. I'm not going to say anything, Ethan said. You said you'd had enough words, so I brought you the other thing. He held out the box. What is it? Open it inside. I'll wait out here. Ethan? I'll wait out here, he said again, and sat down on her top step with his back to her door. Tuesday, 9:34. He heard the box open behind him. Then nothing for a long time. Inside it, in the order he had put them there, were the following things. A torn half sheet of notebook paper with 4 words in blue ink. Remember to eat breakfast. She had left it under a Tupperware on his porch rail in November of the first year when he'd worked 11 days straight on furnace calls, and he had not thrown it away, and it had lived in the drawer with the batteries and the tape for 2.5 years. A recipe card for banana bread with a note at the bottom in her handwriting. This one's idiot-proof, no offense, which she'd left after he'd told her he was going to try baking for Emma's class, and had produced something Ray Delgado later described as roofing material. A birthday card for Emma, the 7th birthday, with a $5 bill still taped inside it because Emma had refused to spend it. A paper napkin from the church hall. A ticket stub from the Greene County Fair. A hair clip blue that she had left on his kitchen counter 14 months ago. And at the bottom folded twice a piece of paper with a list on it in Ethan's handwriting, and the list had dates. Tuesday, 9:41. The door opened behind him. Ethan. He stood up and turned around, and she was holding the folded paper in both hands. What is this? It's a list. I can see that it's a list. Her voice was gone. There are 90 things on it. 106. There's dates. Yeah. March 4th, 2024. Lily read. Chicken and rice. She stayed and talked to Emma about the science fair for 40 minutes, and I pretended to do dishes so she wouldn't leave. She looked up. Ethan. Keep going. June 9th. She fixed the strap on Emma's backpack in my driveway and told her it was a temporary repair, and Emma said, "That's what Dad always says." Lily's hands were shaking so hard the paper made noise. October 22nd. Nothing. She didn't come. I checked the porch 4 times. Ethan looked at the ground. You wrote these down, Lily said. Not on purpose. Not at first. He put his hands in his pockets. I started keeping track because I owed you, and I don't like owing people, and I figured someday I'd pay it back all at once. And then about a year in I realized I wasn't keeping a bill anymore. What were you keeping? A record, Ethan said, of the only good thing that happened to my family after Sarah died. Tuesday, 9:44. Lily put her hand over her mouth. You asked me if I'd have said anything if you hadn't been in trouble, Ethan said. The answer is no, I wouldn't have. I'd have gone another 10 years writing dates on a piece of paper in a cigar box and never knocking, and I'd have called it being respectful, and it would have been fear, and you'd have been right about me the whole time. Ethan. So you're right, it took an emergency. He looked at her straight on. But Lily, I didn't start feeling it in the emergency. I've been feeling it since a Tuesday in November, when a woman I barely knew left a note on my porch telling me to eat and never asked me for one single thing back. Lily was crying without any noise the way she had in the truck. You said nobody picks you when nothing's wrong, Ethan said. There's 106 days on that list, and there was nothing wrong on any one of them. That's all I've got. That's the whole thing. Tuesday, 9:46. She crossed the porch and put her arms around him. She did it hard, the way you grab something in water, and Ethan Carter, who had not been held by another adult human being in 11 years and 2 months, stood absolutely rigid for about a second and a half, and then put both arms around her and held on. Neither of them said anything. At some point his hand came up to the back of her head. You're shaking, she said into his shoulder. Yeah. Ethan Carter, are you crying? No. You are. I'm not discussing it. She laughed against his collarbone, and it was the real one. The one that came all the way up from the bottom, and it was for him, and it was on a Tuesday when nothing at all was wrong. Tuesday, 9:52. Her phone rang inside the house. She didn't move. It stopped, and then it started again immediately, and that was the thing that made her step back and wipe her face with the heel of her hand and go get it. Ethan watched her look at the screen. It's Randy, she said. She answered it on speaker without being asked, and Randy Voss's voice came out into the night air on that porch flat and strange. Lily, where are you right now? I'm standing on my front porch. Who's with you? Ethan Carter, my neighbor. Is anyone else in the house? Randy, you're scaring me. An ACH payment was submitted at 9:41 this evening, Randy Voss said. $98,000, Kestrel Site Services. It queued instead of clearing exactly like we set it up, so no money left the building. Lily's hand went to her mouth. Submitted under whose credentials? She said. Yours. Randy. From an IP address in Fairborn, he said. At 9:41 on a Tuesday night while you were standing on your porch with a witness. Lily looked up at Ethan. Say it plainly, she said. Say it out loud, Randy, because I have not slept in 5 days, and I need to hear somebody say it. And Randy Voss, 64 years old, and the most boring, thorough human being alive, said, "Lily, it wasn't you. And now I can prove it." 9:53. Lily sat down on her own top step with the phone in both hands. "Randy, say it one more time." 9:41 this evening. $98,000 Kestrel Site Services submitted under your user ID from an IP address in Fairborn, Ohio. Randy Voss's voice was flat, the way a man's voice goes when he is reading from something he has printed out twice to be sure. It hit the hold we put on outgoing ACH over 50,000. It queued. It's sitting there right now doing nothing, and it has a timestamp on it, and you were on your front porch. With a witness, Ethan said. "Who's that?" "That's the neighbor," Lily said. "Neighbor, what's your name?" "Ethan Carter." "Mr. Carter, were you with Miss Morgan at 9:41 this evening?" "I was standing 4 feet from her." "Doing what?" Ethan looked at Lily, who had a cigar box on her knees and a list of 106 days in her hand. "She was reading something I gave her," he said. "That'll do," Randy said. "Lily, I need you to not touch a computer tonight. Don't log in anywhere. Don't check anything. Not your bank, not your email, nothing. From here forward, the most valuable thing about you is that you weren't near a keyboard." "Randy." "What?" "You left it on," Lily said. "You actually left my account on." "I left it on Sunday night at 8:40, and I have not slept properly since," Randy said. "I told Doug it was a control test. I lied to a client for the first time in 31 years. Lily laughed, and it turned into something else halfway through. "Randy." "Don't." "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Randy Voss said. "Because there's a second thing, and you're going to want to sit down for it." 9:58. I'm sitting. I pulled the login history back 12 months, not just yours, all of them. Paper moved on the other end. "Lily, your credentials were used at 2:40 in the morning on March 11th, and again on March 26th, and again on April 2nd. That's before the money moved. That's a person practicing," Randy said. "Somebody logged in 3 times in the middle of the night and looked at the vendor master and the approval thresholds in the ACH batch window and logged back out without changing a thing. Casing it. Learning it," Randy said. "For 6 weeks. Lily, whoever this is, didn't take a shot. He studied for a test." Ethan closed his eyes. "I told you," he said quietly. "Don't." "I told you Sunday." "Ethan, I know." 10:04. Deputy Marla Reyes called Ethan's phone 11 minutes later, and the first thing she said was, "Mr. Carter, is Miss Morgan with you?" "She's right here." "Put me on speaker, and then both of you listen without interrupting me because I'm going to say it once and I want it clean." "Okay. The IP address Mr. Voss gave us belongs to a building on North Broad in Fairborn. It's a suite rental. 22 units month-to-month mail service shared wireless." A chair moved. "Unit 14 is leased to a limited liability company called Kestrel Site Services." Lily made a small sound. "That's the vendor," she said. "That's the actual vendor. That's the shell of the actual vendor," Reyes said. "Ma'am, the real Kestrel Site Services is a legitimate dirt contractor out of Xenia. 4 trucks, 11 employees, a man named Emil Roth, who has been in business since 1997. In January, somebody filed a change of address for a company with nearly the same name and opened an account at a credit union in Fairborn with a signature card and a copy of a driver's license." "Whose license?" Ethan said. "I said don't interrupt," Reyes said. "But it was a woman named Andrea Kelleher, and she has been divorced from Bryce Kelleher since 2019. And as of 6 o'clock tonight, she is talking to a detective in Montgomery County, with an attorney sitting next to her, and she is very angry, and she has receipts going back 4 years. Lily put her hand flat on her own chest. "She turned him in." "Ma'am, she turned him in 2021, and nobody built the case," Reyes said. "There's a difference. 2 companies settled and made it go away, and both of those women signed papers that said they wouldn't discuss it. That is why he has no criminal record. That is the entire reason." 10:11. "Deputy," Lily said, "am I still a suspect?" There was a pause that lasted about 2 seconds, and Lily felt every one of them. "You are a person who reported a fraud she was in the best position to commit," Reyes said. That's what you were on Friday. As of 9:41 tonight, you're something else. Miss Morgan, do you understand what you did on Sunday afternoon? I set a control. You set a trap, and then you removed yourself from it and put a witness on your porch, Reyes said. I've been doing this 19 years. I have never once had a victim hand me a timestamp like that. Lily didn't answer because she couldn't. Miss Morgan, I'm here. Get some sleep. I'm not going to sleep. No, Reyes said. You're not. But I have to say it. It's on a card they give us. 10:19. She hung up and sat there on her top step and looked at the cigar box on her knees. Ethan. Yeah. Sunday afternoon on this lawn when Craig told me the sentence. Her voice was very small. Who's the one that's kind to everybody? I remember. I've been sitting with that for 2 days like it was a knife. She turned the box in her hands. He picked me because I'm kind. That's what I've been carrying around. That being decent is a thing people can use, and I should have been harder my whole life, and my mother was right about me. Lily. But that's not what happened tonight, is it? Ethan sat down on the step below her. No. Tonight the kind one caught him, she said. 10:22. Say that out loud again, Ethan said. Why? Because you've been saying the other thing for 5 days, and I want the good one to get equal time. Ethan Carter, that's the corniest. Say it. The kind one caught him, Lily said, and then she laughed, wet and cracked, and put her forehead down on the lid of the box. Wednesday, 7:10 in the morning. Emma Carter came out of her room and stopped dead in the kitchen doorway because Lily Morgan was standing at their stove in yesterday's sweatshirt turning bacon. Miss Lily. Good morning, baby. Emma looked at her father. Ethan looked at his coffee. Is she back? Emma said. Emma? I'm asking her, not you. Emma walked up to Lily and stood there with her arms crossed. Are you back? I never left. You didn't take your trash can in for 6 days. Lily set the fork down and crouched and took Emma by both shoulders. You're right, she said. And I'm not going to explain it away because you'd know I was doing it. I was sad and I was scared and I hid in my house and you came over with apples and I sent you home and that was the wrong thing and I've felt bad about it every day since. Emma's chin wobbled once. Okay. That's it? Okay. You said sorry the right way, Emma said. Dad says sorry the wrong way. He says sorry about that. I do say that, Ethan said. You say sorry about that like it's the weather. Lily put her hand over her mouth and looked at Ethan over the top of his daughter's head, and Ethan looked back at her, and neither of them said anything for about 4 seconds, and it was the most married thing that had ever happened in that kitchen. Wednesday, 1:40 in the afternoon. They picked up Bryce Kelleher at a hotel in Miamisburg at 1:40 in the afternoon on a Wednesday, and he did not run, and he did not resist, and by every account, he was perfectly polite about it. Reyes called at 2:15. He asked for a lawyer in 4 minutes, she said. Which is fine, they all do. Miss Morgan, I'm calling because there's something in his car you should know about before you hear it from somebody else. Okay. There's a folder. Lily's hand tightened on the phone. With my name on it. With your name on it, Reyes said. Printouts from your company's website. A photograph of you from a Christmas party that's on your employer's public page. Your street, your house number, your work schedule written out in his handwriting. A pause. And a photograph of the front of Mr. Carter's house. Ethan set his cup down. Taken when? He said. Metadata says April 6th. That's 5 weeks before the date. Yes, sir. He photographed my house 5 weeks before he ever met her. Mr. Carter. Reyes's voice changed slightly. He wasn't photographing your house. He was photographing the truck in the driveway and the child's bike on the lawn. He was inventorying who was on that street and what they'd lose. 2:21. Lily set the phone down on the counter very carefully, the way you set down something that might go off. Ethan? Don't. He had a picture of Emma's bike. Lily, don't do this. I brought that to your porch, she said, and her voice went up and broke. Every casserole for 3 years, and all it did was tell a man exactly where to. Stop. It's true. It is not true. He came around the counter. Lily, look at me. You didn't bring him. Craig said your name in a card room because you made a cake for a woman he barely knew. You want to follow that back far enough, you're going to end up blaming yourself for being somebody's friend, and I'm not going to stand in this kitchen and watch you do it. Ethan? He picked you because you were the best person in that building, Ethan said. That's not a flaw. That's a diagnosis of him. Lily put both hands over her face. Say the other thing, she said. What other thing? The one from the truck, on the highway. Say it again because I didn't believe you the first time. Ethan took a breath. He picked you because you're good, he said. Don't you dare turn that into something wrong with you. Thursday, 9 in the morning, 8 days after the date. Doug Halverson called and asked her to come in. With my attorney, Lily said. Lily, Doug with my attorney or not at all? Bring him, Doug said. Bring him, bring Randy, bring the deputy, I don't care. Lily, please come in. Thursday, 10:31. They sat in the same conference room with the same blinds turned, and this time there was no man in a golf shirt, and Randy Voss had a stack of paper in front of him, 9 inches high. Doug Halverson sat down and put his hands flat on the table and did not look at anyone for a moment. I need to say something before Randy starts, he said, and my own lawyer told me not to. Lily's attorney put a hand on the table. Mr. Halverson. He's not on trial, Doug said. She is in every room in this county where somebody's talking about her, and I'm the reason. 10:34. In November, Doug said, a man came to see me about a joint venture. The room went silent. He had a nice presentation, Doug said. Site services dirt work expansion into school district contracts. He knew the business cold, and he knew our jobs, and he asked a lot of questions about how we pay our subs, and after about 40 minutes I got a feeling, and I ended the meeting. What was his name? Lily's attorney said. He said Kell. Doug's hands were shaking on the table. He gave me a card that said Kell Development. I threw it in the trash in the parking lot. Doug, Randy said. I know. Did you tell anyone? No. Did you circulate his name to your staff? No. Did you change one single control in this company after that meeting? No. Doug Halverson said, I did not, and 11 weeks later, he was sitting at Lily's desk. 10:39. Lily didn't move. Why? She said. Because I didn't want to look paranoid. He finally looked at her. Because a guy gave me a bad feeling and I had nothing to point at, and I thought, Doug, you're going to walk out there and tell 34 people that a man in a suit made you nervous. That's not a thing you say out loud. That's exactly a thing you say out loud. I know that now, Doug. I sat in this room on Friday, Lily said, and her voice was rising, and she let it. And you asked me why I called Randy, and not you. And I said, because I didn't know if it was you, and you looked at me like I'd spit on your mother. Yes. And you knew. I didn't know anything. You had met him, Lily said. You had sat across a table from that man and gotten a bad feeling and thrown his card in a trash can. And on Friday morning you sat there and let me be the only person in the room with something to explain. Doug Halverson put his hand over his mouth. Yes, he said. 10:42. Nobody said anything for a while. I'm not going to ask you to forgive that, Doug said. Good, Lily said. Because I'm not going to. Her attorney shifted. Lily didn't stop. I'm not going to today, she said. Maybe in a year, maybe never. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Doug, and you're going to sit there and take it because you've had 8 years of me being easy and you're not getting one more day of it. She put both hands on the table. You're going to write a letter. Not a settlement, not a release, not a thing with a lawyer's fingerprints on it. A letter that says, Lily Morgan found this. Lily Morgan reported it, and Lily Morgan was placed on leave and walked out of this building in front of 11 people who watched it happen. Lily. And you're going to send it to every one of those 34 people, and to Randy, and to the insurance company, and you're going to read it out loud in the break room on a Monday morning. Doug swallowed. Okay. And then you're going to hire 2 people to do my job, Lily said. Because one person should never have been able to do all of it, and that is not my failure, that is yours. And it's in Randy's report on page 4. Randy Voss did not look up from his stack of paper, but he smiled. 10:51. Come back, Doug said. No. Lily, your leave is lifted as of this morning, the insurance carrier. Doug, I'm not coming back. The room stopped. I sat in my house for 6 days, Lily said, and every single person I've worked with for 8 years had my phone number and 4 of them used it. 4 out of 34. She stood up. You all had a moment where you thought maybe. And that's human, and I don't hate anybody for it, but I can't sit at that desk and reconcile an account for people who had a moment. Where are you going to go? Randy Voss cleared his throat. She's coming to me, he said. Lily turned around. Randy, I've got 61 clients and I'm 64 years old, and I've been looking for 4 years for somebody who calls me at 7 in the morning instead of deleting 3 lines at 2. He squared his stack of paper. Forensic side. Small business fraud. Lily, half my clients are companies exactly like this one with exactly this problem, and not one of them knows it yet. Randy, I don't have. You caught it in a spreadsheet on a personal laptop at 1:30 in the morning with no training and a broken heart, Randy said. I'll teach you the certification. Say yes on Monday. Say nothing today. 11:04. She walked out of that building for the second time in 8 days, and this time nobody carried her box because she didn't have one, and this time she didn't smile at anybody. Ethan's truck was in the same 4 spaces away. He got out. Well, I quit, Lily said. Okay. That's it? Okay. Was it the right thing? Yes. Then okay, Ethan said, and opened the passenger door for her, and Lily stood there in the parking lot and started to laugh. What? Nothing. Lily. You are so bad at reacting to things, she said, and I've decided it's my favorite thing about you. And she got in the truck. Friday, 6:20 in the evening. Marisol Vega came to Lily's door with her hands empty and her face gray. They charged him this morning. I know. You know. Deputy Reyes called me. Marisol stood in the doorway and did not come in. He's going to plead, she said. His lawyer says because he came in on his own before anybody asked him, and because of the recording, and because of the sentence. Her voice broke apart. The sentence you made him say back to you. Marisol. 18 months is what they're saying, maybe less. Sit down. I can't sit in your house, Lily. Why not? Because I brought him to you, Marisol said. I set it up. I called you and I said, oh my God, finally somebody with sense, and I was so excited, She put her fist against her mouth. I've replayed that phone call 400 times. 6:26. Lily stood in her own doorway for a long moment. Do you want me to lie to you? She said. Or do you want the real one? The real one. I'm angry at you, Lily said. Not about Brandon, you didn't know. But you knew about the card room for 2.5 years, and you called it bowling, and every single Tuesday night you decided not to know. And one of those Tuesdays, a man asked your husband for a name. Marisol nodded over and over, not looking up. And I'm going to be angry about that for a while, Lily said. And then I'm going to stop because I've known you 9 years, and you brought me soup when I had pneumonia, and you were the only person in that office who ever asked about my dad. Lily. So come in on Sunday, Lily said. Not tonight. I can't do tonight. Sunday, and bring nothing, because if you show up with a casserole, I'm going to throw it in the yard. Marisol laughed, and it wrecked her. Okay. Sunday. Okay. Saturday, 11 in the morning. Emma Carter made caramel apples in Lily Morgan's kitchen for 2 hours and 20 minutes, and came home with sugar in her hair, and told her father that Miss Lily said the trick is, you have to let the caramel get angry before you use it. Angry. That's what she said. She said you know it's ready when it looks like it's about to do something. That's not how I'd describe. Dad? Yeah. When are you going to ask her out? Ethan set down the wrench he was holding. Emma. Because I've been waiting a really long time, his daughter said. And everybody in this whole street has been waiting a really long time, and Mrs. Fitch asked me about it at the mailbox." "Mrs. Fitch asked you?" "She said, is your daddy going to do anything about that nice girl next door, or is he going to keep fixing that bike forever?" Saturday, 11:14. Ethan Carter stood in his kitchen for a full minute. Then he crossed the grass and knocked. "Hi." "Hi. Can I ask you something?" he said. "Ethan, you're on my porch every day now, you don't have to." "Nothing's wrong," he said. Lily stopped. "What?" "That's what I came over to say first." He had his hands in his pockets, and he was not going to get them out. "Nothing's wrong today. Nobody's in trouble. Nothing's broken. There's no emergency, and the sheriff hasn't called, and Emma's fine, and I already fixed the window." Lily's hand came up to the doorframe. "Ethan, you told me nobody picks you on a normal Tuesday." "It's Saturday." "It's worse than a Tuesday," Ethan said. "It's a Saturday, and there's nothing wrong at all, and I'm standing here anyway." Saturday, 11:15. "So," he said. "So. Would you have dinner with me?" Lily Morgan put both hands over her face. "Say something," Ethan said. "Say anything, my heart's going like a compressor." "You waited 3 years." "I did. 3 years, Ethan." "I know. And 106 days on a piece of paper." 111, he said. "I've kept it up." And Lily made a sound that was not a laugh and not a sob, and grabbed him by the front of his shirt with both hands. 6 weeks later, Bryce Kelleher was indicted on 11 counts across 2 counties, and the number in the paper was not $297,000. It was $1.4 million, because once one company said his name out loud, 3 more did. 2 of them were companies that had made a woman sign a piece of paper. Both of those women got phone calls from a deputy named Marla Reyes. Both of them said the same thing, which was, "I thought I was the only one." Randy Voss testified for 2 hours and 11 minutes and never raised his voice once. Lily Morgan testified for 40 minutes and was asked at the end by a defense attorney with a very reasonable voice whether it wasn't true that she had been the one to approve every single one of those payments. And Lily said yes. "Thank you. And I'm the one who found them," she said. "And I'm the one who called it in. And I'm the one who told an outside CPA to leave my account open so that your client would walk into it, which he did at 9:41 on a Tuesday night while I was standing on my front porch. So yes, every single one of those payments has my name on it. So does the one that stopped him." The attorney did not ask a second question. 10 months later, the neighborhood had the thing at the end of August, the way it did every year, folding tables and too much potato salad. And Deke Farrow came over to the Carter's table with a paper plate and stood there for a second, like a man working up to something. "Ethan. Deke. Lily." He cleared his throat. "I want to say I'm sorry about, that 4th of July. What I said." Lily looked at him. "That was 4 years ago," she said. "I know how long it was." There was a pause. "Okay," Lily said, and put a plate in his hand, and Deke Farrow took it and went and sat down, and Ethan looked at her for a long moment. "You didn't have to do that." "I know. Most people wouldn't." "Ethan Carter," Lily said, "the whole reason we're standing here is that I'm the one who's kind to everybody. I'm not giving it back now because a man in Fairborn tried to use it." Later that afternoon, someone asked her. It was Mrs. Fitch of all people, holding a plastic cup and squinting into the sun, and she asked it loudly enough that 4 people turned around. "Lily, honey, what made you fall in love with him?" And Lily Morgan, 30 years old, standing on the grass between 2 houses on Delaney Street, with sugar under her fingernails, and a girl at her elbow, said it without thinking about it at all. "He's the first man who never looked at me like a problem he could fix." Ethan took her hand. "He fixes everything," Lily said. "Ask anybody. Furnaces, bikes, that awful window. He fixed a chest freezer on 4th Street that should have been buried in 1994. She laughed. "And he looked at me for 3 years and never once tried." "That's because you weren't broken," Ethan said. "Say it louder, Mrs. Fitch didn't hear you." "She wasn't broken," Ethan Carter said loud enough for the whole street. The following spring, They got married in the church, where she sat in the fourth row on the left on a Saturday with 31 people, and Marisol Vega did the flowers, and Randy Voss cried at the part about the vows, and pretended he hadn't. Emma Carter walked her down the aisle. That was Emma's idea, and she'd argued for it for 11 days. At the reception in the church hall, where Lily had carried ham sandwiches for 4 years for other people's grief. Emma got up on a chair with a microphone she had not been given permission to hold and said, "I have one thing to say." And everybody laughed, and she said it anyway. "When my mom died, I was 4, Emma said. "I don't remember a lot, but I remember our house got really quiet, and it stayed quiet for a really long time, and I thought that was just what our house was like." The room went silent. "And then somebody kept leaving food on our porch and never ringing the doorbell," Emma said. "For 3 whole years, and my dad wrote down every single time she did it on a piece of paper and hid it in the attic, because he's like that." Ethan put his hand over his eyes. "So I just want to say that I have a second mom now," Emma Carter said. "And I didn't get her because somebody died. I got her because she was nice to us on 111 regular days when nothing was even happening." 2 years later, the house on Delaney Street was not bigger. Ethan never made more money than he made fixing furnaces, and Lily's certification took her 19 months, and she passed it on the second try. And there were arguments, real ones about money, and about Emma's phone, and about whether a man who works 10 hours gets to fall asleep at 8:30. But the thing the house had that it had not had in 11 years, it had all the time now. Noise. Emma at 13 yelling down the stairs. Lily on the phone with a client laughing that laugh, the real one, the one that came up from the bottom. Ray and Marcy Delgado on a Sunday. A kettle. A door. Ethan Carter still fixed everything in that house. He fixed the disposal, the porch rail, the gutter over the driveway, a dryer belt the mailbox after a truck clipped it, and a bicycle that Emma had long since outgrown and refused to let him give away. There was only one thing in that house he stopped trying to fix. He'd spent 11 years keeping his own heart closed on the theory that a man who felt nothing could lose nothing, and it turned out to be the only repair he ever got wrong. A woman had stood in his driveway in a blue dress and said she had a date, and he had frozen, and he had dropped a wrench on his own foot and not felt it, and everything after that was the sound of a man finally admitting what he wanted. Family is not always the people you're born to. Sometimes it is the one who walks up your driveway on an ordinary evening when nothing at all is wrong and